the live stream or watching the recording as always. On Monday, the last video I made, or the last live stream I made, I talked about EU citizens who are moving to the Czech Republic. So what are your obligations? What are your duties? What you have to do, like the foreign police registration, or what you don't have to do yet, but you might want to do it for some reasons, which is getting the registration certificate. So if you're interested in that topic, please go to the previous video. It's just the last one before this one. But today's topic will be for those of you EU citizens who are already staying, who have been staying in the Czech Republic for the last couple of years, and you plan on staying forever, or for at least some extended period of time, because in that case you can apply for a permanent residence permit as an EU citizen. And I will be talking today about the advantages of that, and also about the process, how to get it, and the documents you need to get it. Okay, so let's jump right into it. As mentioned in the previous videos, the previous video and all the videos before that as well, EU citizens basically already have the same rights or very similar rights to Czech citizens. So the permanent residence permit does not really change that much on that. There are some advantages that you can get some support from the government. You become automatically a part of the public healthcare system. You can vote in some elections, which is specifically 2 elections. One is for your local representation. So if you live in Prague 1, you can vote for Prague 1 representatives. And you can vote also for the EU Parliament or wherever we send our politicians. Those are the main advantages. Nothing really super serious in my opinion. But the permanent residency is a first step, or one of the steps required if you want to gain Czech citizenship. So if you are an EU citizen and you plan on getting citizenship, getting the permanent residence permit is a must. If you don't really plan on getting the citizenship, getting the permanent residency might still have those advantages which I told you. But if you're under the temporary, you can stay there forever. But if potentially you would like to get the Czech citizenship, or some of the advantages I mentioned are interesting to you, then you should apply for the permanent residency. How is it done? There are actually not too many documents that are needed, but there is one part or one thing you need to prove which might get pretty complicated. So I'll get to it in a second. Let me just grab my coffee. Not sure if you saw my bum and if you wanted to see it or not. Sorry for that. I forgot it on the table. Okay, so first of all, how you submit the application. The application must be submitted at the Ministry of the Interior in person. You must have all the documents, and based on the address where you live, you go to the Ministry of the Interior and you submit your application. You get a confirmation that you submitted the application. You will have the tracking number there. You can track the application, see when it's approved, denied, or that is in process for 7 million years already. So that's one thing. Then once you get it approved, you get the permanent residence permit and you can stay here, potentially apply for citizenship. You get the healthcare access, all that. The documents you need, there are not too many required, but one part is very complicated, or might be pretty complicated. So first, what you need, you need to fill in a form. It's both in Czech and English, nothing too complicated. So that should be fine. You need to have your passport or your national ID, like ID card from Belgium or whatever. You need to have a photo. You need to have a proof of accommodation in the Czech Republic. And the last thing, the complicated one, is that you need to prove that you fulfill the conditions to get the permanent residency, which generally means proving that you have been living in the Czech Republic for long enough. The thing is that you don't really, well, there are couple times you need to, time requirements you need to meet depending on your situation. But the most common one, which I would say 95% of you will probably fall under, is 5 years of living in the Czech Republic. So if you've been residing in the Czech Republic for more than 5 years, you can apply for the permanent residency. The important part here is that you don't need to have the residence certificate or the registration certificate or temporary residence certificate as it used to be called. You don't have to have it. It's better, as I mentioned in the previous video, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it, but you don't really need to have the residence certificate or registration certificate. But if you don't have it, you still have to prove that you've been living here for at least 5 years. And that's where it gets tricky. Because, okay, it's pretty simple. I'll start with the simple options. And if you came here for a job and you've had your job for the whole 5 years and you've had an apartment for the whole 5 years, then it will be pretty simple because you will submit all your employment contracts for the last 5 years, all your lease agreements for the last 5 years, or if you are self-employed, you can submit all your tax returns and all the monthly payments you've been making since day one when you got your trade license. And that's pretty strong proof, and the ministry usually is fine with that. But many EU citizens, because you don't really need to have a job or start a business in the Czech Republic to live here, you don't need to do that. You can just move here and keep working distantly for your employer in some other EU country or somewhere else. You can have your investments or savings, and you don't really need to work here to live here. But that's when it gets pretty difficult to prove. Because I've seen many things happen with the Ministry of the Interior. One of them was that a permanent residence permit for an EU citizen was denied because in his lease agreement and employment contract, there was at that time, I think it was British address. So the ministry, the decision maker, basically denied the application, saying that because the address was British, not a Czech one, it means that he did not really need to be here, that he could have worked from Britain, and so they have no reason to approve the permanent residency. We've seen other variations of that as well, and we tried submitting even gym memberships and all that. So in case you don't have the registration certificate or you haven't had it for the full 5 years, then you might need to get a bit creative, and potentially you might not be able even to get the permanent residency, because it might be actually a good thing to mention in our blogs and in the video that without the certificate you might even not get the permanent residency. I'm not sure if I did that there, but you might actually not be able to get the permanent residency even if you've been living here, because you can submit the lease agreements given that there are no breaks in between, but if you have no other supporting documents and bank statements are not enough or were not enough in some cases for the ministry either, because they could say that, yeah, someone could have your card and be here and pay for stuff. It doesn't have to be you, which is kind of stupid reasoning, but I've seen this really happen in denial letters and everything. So, but that's kind of true as well. That's, I don't know, your partner might have lived here and you gave them your debit card and they were using your debit card, and you were not really, you didn't really have to be here. So it kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't, but you would need to get a bit creative if you only have a lease agreement and nothing really else. You have no job here, no employment, no business, nothing, you don't study here. So that's the complicated part. So that's another reason why you should. This is very interesting about iPhone. Sorry guys, it's there's always the pop-up download the newest update or something, and that completely freezes whatever you're doing. So I'm in the middle of live stream and then this iPhone pop-up pops up and stops completely everything. That's one of the weird things about iPhones. But anyway, so yeah, so I guess that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them, or get in touch with us or with me directly using the link which I will put into the description of the video after I finish the live stream, or just go to movetoprague.com and contact us in any other way, and we'll be happy to help you with that. Let me see, there is one or two questions in the chat, so I'll answer that as well. This was pretty fast and brief topic, so let's see. Rupak Bishwakarma, hi Jan, happy to see you live. Hi Rupak, nice to see you live as well. Ganesh Timalsina, hi sir, I have some questions. I'm in Czech 5 years and 6 months, and my wife 3 years. She has dependent visa. She can give Czech language exam after 3 years. Well, she can pass the exam and she can get the certification, but she cannot really apply for the permanent residency after 3 years. Your child, if it's minor, you said you had child? No, you didn't say. Kids could apply for the permanent residency without the need to be here for 5 years, but wives or spouses in general cannot really. So she can pass the exam and she can then use it 2 years later. Question is if the ministry until then doesn't increase the minimum required level, in which case that would be kind of waste of everything to get it now. I don't expect that because the A1 level was there for the whole time we've been in business, so 10 years before that. So they only increased that after like 20 years or something. And now it's been 3 years, I think, the A2 or something like that. So I don't expect them to increase it, but if they did, then it would be a waste of time, energy, effort, and everything. So I would probably wait with getting the A2 exam. On the other hand, getting the appointment also takes a couple of weeks or months. So if she applies for the appointment for like to give to take the exam, then she might not get it for another year anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter. Okay guys, so thank you very much for joining, and I'll be again back here on Monday, Thursday, until the end of the world. Good night and see you next time.